Hey and welcome, I'm Lorelei of Namasturm Yoga. Today we're going to do a nice stress relieving stretch practice. Come to your mat. We're going to start sitting for just a few moments at the top of our practice here. Cross your legs, bring your hands to your knees, take your shoulders back, let your head just float on top of the neck. So I love yoga as a workout, as a strengthening practice. However, there are definitely days where I need it to relieve some stress. And fortunately, yoga has a lot of options for just plain stretching, moving the body without stressing it out more. So that's what we're going to do today. So from your seated position, let's go ahead and just start. Inhale, reach the arms up. We will follow the breath here a little at first. Now, as you exhale, turn to the right, take your left hand to your right knee, and then inhale, arms back up again. Exhale, twisting the other way, right hand to the left knee. And just a little back and forth here. Inhale and exhale, and start to use your breath. If you're familiar with the Ujjayi breathing practice and you want to use that, you certainly can. But if not, it's okay. Just let yourself try to breathe. Breathing with awareness is also something that can relieve your stress if you are feeling tense at all or just losing track of yourself or what's important. Let's go ahead and come back up one more time. And then let's just take the arms out to the side. And we're just going to roll the arms in. So like the whole arm is going to turn in. And as you do this, you might round your upper back a little bit and then go the other way. So open the whole arm and open your chest. And a little rolling in. So maybe a little rounding of the back. And then open. The whole arm turns open along with the hands. Maybe lift and look up. And turn. So the first bit here, we're going to just be moving to kind of warm our bodies up. But these are all going to be kind of feel-good movements. Let yourself enjoy it and follow the breath as best you can. And then go ahead and come back up. If you're able to, take the hands behind the back, link your fingers, pull your shoulder blades back and down, and then take the hands up off the back. If you can't bring your hands together, you could just place them by your sides and draw your shoulder blades together, or you can also grab like a strap or a towel between your hands. Heart forward. If you want to, you can tilt your head back, drop your chin down, warming up the neck just a little bit here. And then coming back to center, and we're going to lower to our mat. So go ahead and come to the floor. Hips slightly away from the heels. Move your spine down with the knees bent and pull your shoulder blades underneath the back. Now you could certainly just rest here for a little while if you wanted to. This is a really comfortable position, really restorative for your low back. We're going to start to move with the breath. So push the feet down on an inhale, lift the hips up, and then also lift the arms and reach those arms up and overhead. Exhale, lower your spine down to the floor. Inhale up. And again, just following the breath. So you'll start to feel your back stretch a little bit. Maybe your chest is stretching, but it shouldn't feel like a strain or too much work. Knees stay over the ankles so that they're supported and you're not straining your knees in any way here. And then this next time, as you lower your hips down to the floor, bring your knees into your chest. Hold on to the knees and just roll them around in a circle, almost like you're kind of massaging your low back on the ground. And then go the other way. And then pull your knees in a little tighter if you can. Lift your head and shoulders and draw your nose to your knees. curling yourself into a little ball. Now on an inhale, let's take the legs into the air and stretch the arms up and away. And then on an exhale, curl back into your little ball. And let's just go back and forth a few times here. Let yourself notice what's going on in your spine. Notice if your legs are feeling tight. And you can also let yourself notice if it feels good. So we tend to notice what's bothering us, what's causing us pain or strain. Sometimes it's great to just notice like what feels wonderful. And then go ahead and come back in, and we're just gonna roll a little bit from shoulders to hips. You can use your feet to help you. And we're gonna come all the way back up, and we're gonna actually try to then move to our feet. So you can use your hands to do this, basically coming to a squat position. Your heels may not be able to reach the ground, but if they can, go ahead and leave them down. And then moving the hands just a little bit in front of you, we're going to start to straighten the legs, coming to a forward fold. Move your feet about hip distance apart. Let the head hang down. If your hands don't touch the floor here, that's okay. But do keep the knees a little soft so that we're not overstretching the hamstrings here. Now, let's go ahead and drop the hips to the heels and let the hands come up off the floor. Come to a squat. If this is hard on your knees, go easy here. And then as you exhale, you're going to come back to some version of forward fold. And then inhale, hips down, come up. We're just warming up our legs. You'll feel this a little in your quads. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up. Exhale, fold. One more time. Inhale, coming to your squat. Exhale, coming to your forward fold. Take another breath or two here in forward fold, just a dangling pose. If you want to nod or shake the head, let yourself do that. You could even sway your torso. And then plant the hands on the floor and step your knees back to tabletop. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. And we're going to do a few cat-cow stretches, really getting the spine moving. So again, following the breath, on an inhale, sway the back, let the head come up and the tailbone kind of lift as well. On an exhale, do the opposite. So tuck your tailbone down, arch your back, and let your head come down. And then just a little back and forth here. Follow the breath. You can move slowly if that feels good to you. It's kind of up to you the pace that you set for yourself, but you want to find a breathing pace and then try to let your movement match. Really start to notice your shoulders and how the shoulder blades pull apart as you exhale into this cat stretch. And then the shoulder blades draw together, digging into your upper back in your cow pose. And then leveling out, come back to center so that your spine is kind of flat, so like a tabletop, right? Now from here, we're going to take the right hand out and the left leg back. Just a little bit of balance. Extend through your heel and your fingers, and then take your hand and knee down and do the other side. So let's do inhale, extend. Exhale, come back in. Inhale, extend. And you're trying to kind of keep your balance and your stability here. So it might help to look at a single point, maybe the front end of your mat. Hand and knee to the floor. Inhale. And this should be, you should feel like you're stabilizing through your core a little bit here. This isn't really hard core work, but a little bit of stability building. One more time each side. So right hand and knee down, and then try the left. Make sure you've finished in a symmetrical manner. And then let's take the knees a little wider and drop the hips to the heels, child's pose. Walk the hands out if you can. Now from here, we're gonna come up onto our knees. Reach the arms out and up, and it might be more comfortable to bring your knees back under your hips now. Lift up, maybe look to your thumbs, and then as you exhale, dropping the heart down, bring the hands along the sides of the body, back to the heels, forehead down. Inhale, come on all the way up to your knees, reach the arms. Exhale, folding down, lead with the heart, and then let your hips come back to your heels. Inhale, following the breath again. Just take one more here. And then this time, just bring your palms together in front of the heart. We're gonna step the right foot forward. So keep the left knee down. Use your hands if you need to get the right foot to the front of the mat. And we don't want it close to the knee because then as we lunge, our knee's gonna go past our ankle. So just make sure you get that foot far enough forward that as you start to lean your hips forward towards your front heel, your knee is above your ankle and not way beyond it. And then come on up. So this is a low lunge. Your hips might be over your back knee, but if possible, try to sink them a little bit forward. Gaze forward and then take the arms up and maybe reach your left hand, your left wrist with your right hand, and then pull up and over. Take a little stretch for your side here as you sink the hips forward. And breathe. And then come back up. Hands to the floor in front of you to help you switch sides. So we'll take the right knee back, and then we'll move the left foot forward. And again, use your left hand to help you get that foot all the way forward so that your knee is going to be protected by your shin, which should be vertical here. Move your hips forward. This is a nice opening for the heart as well here, and take the arms up. And if you did the little side stretch on the first time, this time you're going to grab your right wrist with your left hand and pull over to the left. Breathe. I know the back knee is on the floor. You can always put like a towel or something under that knee if it feels like it's difficult or your floor is feeling uncomfortable under your knee. And then come on up, hands to the floor, and then just take your left knee back again. Once again, let's drop the hips to the heels, almost child's pose, but we're just gonna come on up and sit on our heels. This is hero pose actually, virasana, but we're gonna move towards rabbit pose. So if you can, take your hands behind the back, and we did this at the very beginning, sitting. If you can't get the hands together, you could put something between them, like a towel or a strap, or even like a t-shirt will work. Pull your shoulders back. Now, keeping your hips on your heels, start to fold down and see if you can get your forehead to the floor. But the hips are still down. Now for rabbit pose, we roll toward the top of the head and the hips lift off the heels. And as we do that, the arms reach up and overhead for a stretch in the shoulders. Moving towards the top of your head, maybe the hips eventually stack directly over the knees. Breathe. This is rabbit pose, so you can think about like those arms overhead are like your rabbit ears. And then rolling out the same way. So we're just rolling on our head as the hips come down, moving from the top of the head to the forehead, hips down. And we're in child's pose, and you can take your arms out now. We are going to come to downward facing dog. So this is definitely not a vinyasa class, but we will use this pose to transition a couple of times. So let's lift the hips up, tuck the toes, and then as you lift your knees, move your heart back. So you're lengthening the upper body. The knees can be really bent here though, and maybe then take a little time to bend, pedal through the legs, bend one knee, let the opposite leg straighten. Root into the hands. I love downward facing dog. It always feels good to me, but if it's newer to you or if it feels really difficult for you, we're not going to be here a lot, A, and B, you could just stay in child's pose in place of down dog. Now from here though, we're going to try to look forward and step the right foot forward. So we did this earlier with a low lunge. You can do it from your knees, having your knees on the floor. But from here, it's just a little easier to create that space. The knee comes forward, and once again, we're going to lower the left knee to the ground. Again, if this knee has trouble being on the ground, you can fold the side edge of your mat. If you don't have a towel or something, just to pad it a little more. And then we're going to let the hips shift back over that back knee so the front leg gets really straight. We're going to pop onto our front heel for Ardha Hanumanasana, or half split. If you're having trouble getting the hands to the ground, if your hamstrings are really tight and the knee is not straightening and your hands won't come down, you can put a block here just to give yourself a little support, or a book or whatever you have. But if you're able to reach the floor, go ahead and take your hands to your mat. And as you pull the toes back, you're also pulling your quad back, and that's just to engage the front of the leg to give yourself a little structure as you fold. And breathe. This is a stretch for a hamstring. You'll probably know that right away. Let yourself sink down. For those of you who have really open hamstrings, if you want to go a little deeper, you can start to slide your heel forward, but don't go too far, right? So just go to the point where you feel like you can keep the leg straight and it's still safe. But it might even go off the mat, right? But there can be a space, right, between the leg and the floor. But just give yourself a chance to stretch the way that feels right to you. And then when you're ready to move out, you're just going to try to come out easily to downward facing dog. If your foot gets caught on your mat, swing it around. Downward facing dog. Take a breath or two in down dog or child's pose. And we'll step the left foot forward. So same thing on the second side. Right knee lowers. Pat it if you need to. Move the hips back over the right knee. Now, if the hips are so far back that they're coming to your heel, that means you need to move your front foot a little further forward. So it should be near the front of your mat so that the back thigh is vertical and your left leg is straight and the toes flex upward. Fold down, do the best you can here. This is, a practice we're trying to release a little stress. So if any of these poses are stressing you out, that's the opposite of what we want. Find a way to make it a little bit easier so that you don't have to work hard here. So if you need something to support you, give yourself that support, that prop, that stabilizer so that you don't have to worry about getting your hands to the floor to feel secure in this pose. And for those of you who are a little more flexible, if you want to start to extend that heel out, you can. You can also tuck your back toes and walk your back knee back. So whatever works for you, if you want to go closer to the full split, you can. But the hips should stay square, so we don't want to rock to our left hip. So try to think of moving your left hip kind of back and your right hip forward, even though the legs are doing the opposite of that. And then coming out, So if you're in Ardha Hanumanasana, it should be relatively easy. Well, I say that, but I don't know. But you might be able to bend your knee enough that you can plant your palms and then step your knees back. And you can go back to downward facing dog if you want to, or you might just let yourself lower straight down to the ground, because this is where we are coming next. We're going to come to our belly, and we're going to work a little bit of bow pose here. So bend your knees behind you. Reach back with your hands for the tops of the feet or the ankles if you can reach them. But don't let the knees widen just to try to catch your ankles. Lift your shoulders. We're going to take a little bow pose here, which is a back bend. But let's make it nice and easy by keeping the thighs on the floor on purpose. Pull the heels away from the hips. If this is too much for you, if your low back isn't enjoying it, or if you can't reach your feet with your knees bent, you could take a Sphinx pose instead by propping yourself up with the elbows under the shoulders. So that's an option, right, if it doesn't work for you. Now, let's go ahead and let go of just the right foot. Keep hold of your left foot and see if you can take the right arm down to the ground. Make it kind of a diagonal, but then push down to lift up out of it a little bit. And then we're going to pull the left heel now towards the hip to stretch that back quad. If you find that you've got a lot of space and the heel's coming really close to the hip, maybe flip your hand over so that you can actually push down and the elbow moves up over your wrist. Heart up. Gaze forward and breathe here. And then we can switch sides. So let go of your left foot. Take that right arm down, cross at maybe a diagonal just to support you. Push down, lift up, and then bring your right hand back to your right foot. And instead of pulling away like we did in bow, you're moving that heel toward your hip. And then carefully, actually hang on to the foot, but adjust your hand position. And let's see if we can take one more bow pose. So bend your left knee, lower your chest down to the ground and reach your left hand back. And this time, if you're feeling a little like taking a little bit more of a vigorous back bend, you might choose to lift your thighs off the floor, but it's optional. Breathe. Really what's happening is as your heels pull away from the hips, your arms straighten and your shoulders get pulled back, so we stretch across the chest. So hopefully that's what you're feeling here. If you're feeling strain in your low back, ease up, bring the thighs back to the floor, or even just extend your legs back to the ground and take a Sphinx pose. And then let that all go. Extend the legs behind you. Take your forehead to the floor. If you want to bring your hands to rest on your head on, you can. Okay, hands to the floor by the sides of the chest. Let's lift up, move to the knees, and we're going to come back to downward facing dog. Root into the hands, lift the hips, come on up. And we're going to move to a pigeon stretch here. If you like taking your right leg in the air, opening the hip and bending the knee to prep the leg, you might. But you don't need to do that if you don't want to or if it's too challenging. But we're going to try to bring the right knee forward behind the right wrist. And instead of planting the foot like we did in our lunge, we're just going to lay the shin across the mat at a diagonal. Use the left toes then to walk the left leg back so you get really nicely on the top of the back thigh. And then avoid rocking to your right hip. Many people use a block under their hip just to kind of keep that hip propped up so that it doesn't roll to the floor. So if you need to do that, you can certainly use some support there. And then just start to walk the hands out in front of you and see if you're able to fold down here. If this is troubling for your knee, there is a modified version of pigeon stretch you can do on your back. So yeah, don't hurt yourself. This isn't the goal. We want to work into a deep stretch in the hip. It might feel some intensity, and a stretch can relieve stress even if it feels intense in the moment you're in it, because sometimes that thing that happens when you come out of it is like there's no other way to get that but going through the deep stretch first. Breathe. And then walk the hands in, come on up. Once you start to walk up, let's see if we can walk up a little higher. So start to move the hands a little closer to that leg. You might even be able to take your right hand and bring it near your hip off the right side of the mat and the left hand by the foot. Push the feet into the mat and see if you can really lift up here and get a little sense of uprightness. Shoulders back, heart up and forward. And then let's actually roll to the right hip. So if you were supporting yourself with a block, you'll have to pull that block out. Now, roll to the right hip, move the left shin so that it lines up with the front edge of your mat, and then move the left leg up. So it's kind of like a pinwheel. The left leg is straight out from the hip, and the knee is 90 degrees. And we're gonna take a little twist here. So the left hand comes to the right knee, we turn over the right shoulder. If you can, start to try to drop your left hip down toward the ground. Okay, now we're gonna stay rocked to our right hip. We're gonna swing the left leg around, so lean onto your hands to help you with this. We're gonna keep the right shin parallel to the front edge of the mat, and we're going to try to stack the left shin over. This is going to be a double pigeon stretch. So we're actually stretching now in both hips. To the best of your ability, stack the left foot over the right knee and the left knee over the right foot, and then start to lean in to get your stretch. And we're just going to breathe here. So this is a very deep stretch. Do the best you can with it. Unlike a seated cross-legged position, the heels are not tucked in toward the body. So if this is problematic for your knees, the alternative would be to just put the sole of the right foot on the floor. And usually this is a little easier to move your heart towards your shin with your left leg on the thigh, but not the legs all the way down. So that's the backup plan. Hopefully I explained that clearly enough. All right, folding in, hands forward. And then I'm going to show you one additional advanced variation if you want to try this here. So we can add a little twist here if we can start to twist towards this left foot. So you can just take your hand there and twist, but the goal really is going to be to bring like your elbow, so almost really the upper left arm to the sole of the foot, so that you're pushing the arm against the foot and the foot is against the arm, and then the other hand, the right hand, picks up, the palms press, and then you turn your sternum towards your thumbs here. Do the best you can. Breathe, always breathe. Obviously, to get into this, you need to have a decent amount of the ability to lean forward, so you should still feel this stretching your hips as you twist too. Keep breathing. And then carefully, carefully, slowly extract yourself from this pose. And take the legs out, give them a little shake. And then move the feet underneath you so that we can come back to bringing our hands to the floor, back to downward facing dog, so we can set up for the other side. Move the heart back. If you like being in down dog, give yourself an extra breath or two here. And then we're going to move the left knee forward. Again, if you like lifting the leg and opening the hip, little variation of down dog splits, you might choose to add that in, but it's optional. And then the left knee comes forward behind the left wrist. Use the right toes to help walk the right leg back, get onto the top of the thigh. Make sure you're not rocked to your left hip. If you need to use a block under that one, you might. And then start to fold down here. Okay, coming up out of your stretch when you're ready. And then we're going to rock to that left hip. Move the block if you need to. Move your left shin a little forward, so now it's parallel to the front edge of the mat. And then move the right leg in a little bit so that the knee is directly out from the hip, and then the shin extends straight back from the knee. Drop your right hip and then take the right hand to your left knee and turn over your left shoulder. And then come out of your twist, and let's move that right leg to stack above the left. And make adjustments like where you're seated on your mat, but the goal again is to have the left foot on top of the right, or the right foot on top of the left knee, and the right knee above the left foot. It may be some distance above, but as you start to fold, that knee will lower down, hopefully. Breathe. Again, the alternative would be to lean back, put the left foot on the floor, and the right ankle just crosses onto the thigh above the knee, and then you can move your heart in. Give yourself a couple of breaths just in your fold before you decide if you want to add in that twist. And I'm just going to turn myself a little bit just to kind of demonstrate this a little better. But if you're taking the twist, you're going to try to turn your body to the left and bring your elbow or even the upper arm to that right foot. And then once you've got that there, push the arm into the foot a little bit for stability so you can lift up. And then take your left palm and press it down into the right. So you can just turn from here. As you're twisting, continue to lean forward a little bit and then just continue to twist to the left as well. So we're doing two things at once, really. And then when you're coming out, come out slowly, especially if that felt like a deep stretch to you. Okay, and then from here, let's just take the legs out and we're gonna come to a diamond pose. So take the feet together, knees go wide. You could take full Baddha Konasana and bring the heels towards you, but I actually really like this kind of wide diamond variation. You might be able to slide your hands under your calves and reach for the tops of your feet, and then just let your upper body round and fold down. Drop your head off your neck. Some of you might find that your head actually comes to the soles of the feet, and then you can just rest it there if that feels comfortable to you. And then coming up slowly. And the last pose we'll do is just a simple Paschimottanasana. So take the legs out straight. Flex the feet a little. So pull the toes back towards you. Engage your quads. If you have a hard time sitting upright here, sit on a block. Some people will even put a block under their knees. So if you have a difficult time straightening your knees completely, that's okay as well. We're going for a hamstring stretch, but we want this to also feel like a forward fold. Forward folds are designed to be a little bit calming. We move our focus inward, and you can really focus on your breath. So as we take this last long hold, even though you might be feeling some stretch, see if you can also find some release and relief. Walk the hands out if appropriate. Keep your quads engaged. Let the upper body really relax here. And then bring yourself back up slowly. Cross your legs. I also encourage you to come back to the floor and take a brief Shavasana practice after we finish here, really letting yourself completely let go for the final few minutes of your practice. But for now, bring your palms together in front of the heart, close your eyes, tune back into your breath here. And let's close our practice with a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing in another practice. Namaste. Thanks so much again for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me as well. I'd love to read them. All right, take care. Have a good one.